All right, this one's called Let Your Yes Be Yes and Your No Be No. Ever been asked to go out and do something, but for whatever reason you didn't want to and you felt the need to justify saying no? Many people grow up or learn through relationships that their own preferences, energy, or limits don't matter as much as keeping others happy or avoiding conflict or guilt. So when someone invites you out and your honest answer is no, the eternal alarm goes off. They'll be disappointed in me. They might think I don't like them. I have to give a good enough reason or I'm being selfish or rude. That urge to over explain or justify is often a leftover people pleasing habit. It stems from fear of rejection, abandonment, or being seen as bad. A lot of recovery work focuses exactly on this, learning that no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone detailed defense of your time, energy, or mood. Matthew 5:37. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. James 5:12. But above all, my brothers, do not swear, either by heaven or by earth, or by any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no, so that you may not fall under condemnation. The Bible has quite a bit to say about the pressure to over justify a simple no because of guilt, fear of disappointing others, or people pleasing. It encourages clear, honest boundaries without long explanations, rooted in integrity, freedom from condemnation, and trust in God rather than fear of man. When your no needs a long justification, it can signal that you're still managing the other person's reaction more than honoring your own convictions. Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Galatians 6:2-5. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone, without comparing themselves to someone else, for each one should carry their own load. We help bear one another's burdens in love, but we're also responsible for our own daily load. A healthy no honors this balance. Jesus himself often said no or withdrew without long justifications. He stepped away from crowds to pray and rest. Mark 1:35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Luke 5:15-16. Yet the news about him spread all the more, so that crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their sicknesses. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Jesus didn't heal or help everyone who asked, and he set limits even with family. Matthew 12:46-50. While Jesus was still talking to the crowd, his mother and brothers stood outside, wanting to speak to him. Someone told him, "Your brother and mother are standing outside wanting to speak to you." He replied, "Who is my mother? Who are my brothers?" Pointing to his disciples, he said, "Here are my mother and my brothers, for whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother." Jesus didn't immediately drop everything. Instead of stopping his teaching, going outside right away, or prioritizing their request because they were blood relatives, he used the moment to teach a deeper truth. He redefined family around obedience to God the Father rather than biological ties. He gently but firmly redirected by asking, "Who's my mother? Who are my brothers?" And then pointing to his disciples, Jesus was essentially saying, right now, the people doing the will of God, my true spiritual family, have priority in this moment. He did not rush to accommodate their desire to speak with him on their terms. These are clear examples of healthy boundary setting. Jesus loved his mother and brothers deeply. We see his care for Mary all throughout Scripture, but he did not let even close family interrupt or derail the mission and teaching God had given him in that moment. He modeled that earthly family relationships, while important, do not automatically override spiritual priorities or current responsibilities. Galatians 1:10, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. Proverbs 29:25, fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Fear of man is that internal pressure to manage everyone else's emotions, avoid rejection, or prevent disappointment. It turns a simple boundary into negotiation or apology. A snare is a trap. When you over-explain your no, you get caught. You feel guilty. The other person may push back or guilt trip you, and you end up weakening your own boundary. You're trapped trying to please people instead of living freely. This fear often whispers, they'll think I'm selfish. They won't like me anymore. I have to make them feel okay about my no. Jesus confronts this head on in the Sermon on the Mount. He knew people used oaths because their plain word wasn't trusted, often because they lived in fear of others' opinions. His solution: live with such integrity that a plain no is enough. No performance is required. Psalm 118:8. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humans. The urge to justify my no usually comes from fear of man, worrying what they'll think of me. But Jesus invites me to a better way. Let my no be no because I trust the Lord to keep me safe and approved in His eyes. A simple, honest boundary honors God and protects my heart. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's recovery work. But every time you practice a shorter, clearer no and sit with this discomfort, you're choosing trust in God over the snare of people pleasing. Over time, it feels lighter and more peaceful. Last thing I'll add about letting your yes be yes is simply that if you tell someone or if you tell God you're going to do something, do it. Numbers 30:2. When a man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath to obligate himself by a pledge, he must not break his word, but must do everything he said. Psalm 15:1-4. Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? The one who keeps an oath even when it hurts and does not change their mind. Ecclesiastes 5:4-5. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it. Proverbs 12:22. The Lord detests lying lips, but He delights in people who are trustworthy. 1 John 3:18. Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. Being someone who consistently follows through builds steady daily progress in character. It prevents the discouragement that comes from overpromising and under-delivering. Instead, it fosters hope through faithful ongoing obedience, trusting that God completes His work in us as we keep moving forward with integrity. In short, the Bible calls us to be people whose word can be trusted. This honors God, builds strong relationships, and reflects His own perfect faithfulness. He always follows through on what He says, and that is recovery.